Hello and welcome to the Bob Box. I have been wondering when I get this one. Again, I was wondering how long it'd be before I talked about a robot from the reboot here in the bunker. 2 have come along in 3 episodes. They're like buses. Ironside 3 is in fact related to 3 robots I've already talked about: Velociraptor, Mighty Mouse, and Mega Mouse. If you're expecting a rammer stroke lifter like the previous 3 though, don't. Ironside 3 is an octagonal, slightly soaped black box armed with a massive horizontal spinning bar, one of the biggest in the reboot in Series 8. It landed in Heat E of Series 8 Robot Wars, where it made its debut, and drew dragon-based grabber Chompalot, drum spinner Pulsar, and lobster-based flipper Thermidor 2. Ironside 3 started off by winding up in Shunt's corner, along with Chompalot and Thermidor 2, but got out before Shunt could attack, which is more than could be said for Chompalot and Thermidor 2. So Ironside 3 hung back and waited for someone to get out, eventually getting 2 hits in on Chompalot, but in the process took a hit from Pulsar. Ironside 3 then hit Thermidor 2, ensuring that the lobster bot would not be moving again, but not destroying it. Pulsar had already done a number on Thermidor 2. Then took off one of Chompalot's side panels. Chompalot took 3 hits from Ironside 3 and a barely mobile Pulsar. Ironside 3 hit Pulsar 2 for good measure. Ironside 3 then opened the pit, which Chompalot nearly drove in. Oops. Ironside 3 then hung back as Chompalot tried to do the brave thing and pick Pulsar, but before they could, time ran out and the judges recorded. They ruled in favour of Ironside 3 and Chompalot. So, that put Ironside 3 through to the head-to-head, where first they faced barely armoured flipper Beast. Ironside 3 took a moment to spin up and did land a blow on Beast, but the flipper chased Ironside 3, hoping to get a flip in. For a moment, Ironside 3 stopped, but it was fine and landed a blow on one of Beast's wheels. Ironside 3 hit Beast again before Beast was counted out immobile. So Ironside 3 got 3 points and did a pirouette in celebration. Nice pirouette too. Next up for Ironside 3 was a pickaxe-wielding Axelbot, the robot Gabriel. Ironside 3 elected to go for the wheels once it did spin up. Pretty reasonable since Gabriel's wheels are massive. It took a bit of tire out and ran off so Gabriel couldn't attack, and hit Gabriel's wheels some more. This cycle continued until Gabriel ended up with Sir Killalot. Gabriel eventually escaped after roosting over the flame pit. Not brilliant when your robot's made of plastic, as Gabriel is. And Ironside 3 was ready for them. Ironside 3 hit Gabriel's axe, which was not made of plastic, before messing up Gabriel's tyres some more. Gabriel, however, could still move. One of Gabriel's great strengths was that it could take hits from spinners and still keep moving. Once again, the attack sent Gabriel to Sir Killalot, and Gabriel got away from Sir Killalot, but not very far. It got stuck on the flame pit by its own tyres, so Ironside 3 drove over the flame pit to attack Gabriel and free Gabriel. Time ran out and the judges recorded. They ruled in favour of Ironside 3, so that was 2 points for them. Next up was not Chompalot. You see, Chompalot had to withdrawn due to a lipo fire. It had basically turned into a fire-breathing dragon. So that meant Pulsar was reinstated. Ironside 3 ran off to try and spin up, which it did, but Pulsar chased Ironside 3, caught it, hit it, and Ironside 3 was turned over. Ironside 3 did have a self-writer, did have a remake, but self-writing just was not happening. Pulsar was just not leaving Ironside 3 be. So Pulsar sent Ironside 3 to Sir Killalot. Eventually, Sir Killalot rescued Ironside 3, but its blade was not functioning. So Ironside 3 tried a new tactic. They went to the pit, opened it, stopped Pulsar and pushed the drum spinner into the pit. Ironside 3 also ended up in the pit. So you'd think, well, that's Ironside 3 winning, isn't it? Obvious conclusion. Through to the heat final. You would think wrongly. Because both robots had ended up in the pit, the judges were called in. They examined the footage and deemed that Ironside 3 actually should have been counted out when it had been flipped because it did not self-write in time. In fact, Sir Killalot did the writing for them. So as a result, it was deemed to have been immobilised for too long, and the win was given to Pulsar. And that sent Ironside 3 out. Ironside 3 returned for Series 9 with an improved remake and place in the Heat of Death, otherwise known as Heat D. Why was it the Heat of Death? Well, the presence of lots of spinny things. 5 in heat with 8 robots in, and of course one of them was Ironside 3. In its first battle, Ironside 3 drew 2 spinners. One of them was horizontal bar spinner Apex, and the other, of course, was Pulsar. The other robot that didn't have a spinny thing was crab-based grabber Crustacean. After spinning up, Ironside 3 targeted Crustacean and hit it from behind. That was enough to leave the crab bot dead on the flame pit. Meanwhile, Pulsar was taking care of Apex. Hit it once, killed it, and then hit Ironside 3 for good measure. Why not? Basically. So that sent them both through. Of course, the first robot Ironside 3 faced in head-to-heads was Pulsar. Who else could it have been? After all, it's Series 9 and Ironside 3 Pulsar is now a rivalry. And in Series 9, if there are rivals that can be put up against each other at the earliest possible opportunity, that's what would happen. Case in point, Carbide Apollo. Anyway, back to Ironside 3 versus Pulsar, Part 2. Ironside 3 spun up the weapon and had to avoid shunt, which they did, but in doing so, they tipped over the floor flip. Ironside 3 landed on its wheels, only for Pulsar to ram Ironside 3 right into their pit release. The pit opened and the two hit each other's weapons, sending both to Killalot. Ironside 3 got out first. The two traded blows again before Pulsar chased Ironside 3 around the arena. Ironside 3 tripped over the floor flipper before a pushing war ensued, rare with 2 spinners, and a brush with Oblivion for Ironside 3. Sir Killalot rotated them. Pulsar ultimately ended up driving into the wall. Sir Killalot roasted them and flipped them, at which point Ironside 3 hit them a few times. But then an error of the technical variety happened. The countdown was set off for Pulsar. It ultimately got cancelled, but the cancellation did not get through to Ironside 3's booth. Cease was never called, and ultimately the battle ended up going the full 3 minutes and went to the judges. But the technical issue did have an effect on the fight. Ironside 3 hung back, thinking they'd won by knockout. But as it was, because of that, the judges ended up ruling a draw. So both teams got 2 points. Next up, wood had been Frostbite, a horizontal bar spinner. But Frostbite had basically been demolished so badly there was absolutely no chance of Frostbite ever getting back into the arena. So a lifting scoop robot named Worm took its place, and Worm had a scoop that could lift and could also Newton Third's Law Ironside 3 spinner. Ironside 3 turned away to spin it before going after Worm's plough and tearing it off. Turns out Ironside 3 laughs in the face of spinner killer ploughs. Who knew? Anyway, Worm backed into shunt and got axed before Ironside 3 took out Worm's side panel and a wheel, and the other wheel on the left hand side was left pretty wonky. Another hit killed Worm, but Ironside 3 was actually stuck on the pit. It was not level that series. They got free and took out the wonky Worm wheel before Worm was counted out. Next up for Ironside 3, which now had 5 points, was horizontal flywheel wheel to Supernova. And Ironside 3 needed to win that fight by any means possible, or once again, it was out. Both robots turned to spin up. Ironside 3 got the first hit in, which caused Supernova to lose drive on one side. So Ironside 3 went after Supernova's sides and wheels, ultimately killing Supernova and sending it to shunt. The chain went on Supernova as well, which can't have helped. So this time, Ironside 3 really did get through. There, Pulsar awaited them in the heat final. A very poorly Pulsar. So poorly that Pulsar very clearly didn't make it. The first hit of Ironside 3's took out one side of Pulsar. The second hit killed Pulsar. Ironside 3 delivered a few more hits just to make sure that Pulsar was very, very definitely dead. So, for the first time ever, and for the first time in its team's long history, they were the grand finalists. Ironside 3 turned around to spin up. Well, Ironside 3 turned up to spin up, but who was it fighting? First up for them was more spinners! As if Ironside 3 hadn't crossed paths with enough spinners. Drum spinner Concussion and horizontal bar spinner Carbide. So, as I said, Ironside 3 turned around to spin up, and Carbide and Concussion's battle took them to the pit release. As a result, the pit was open, as opposed to house robots being let out on the rampage. Before Carbide went over to Ironside 3 and hit it from behind. Beanies. Ironside 3 then took on Concussion. In fact, Ironside 3 and Carbide took in turns to hit Concussion like a good tag team, until Concussion was dead. Obviously, Ironside 3 and Carbide should team up in tag team terrors. They work well together. Or rather not. Carbide took out Ironside 3's new improved Streamic that they hadn't had a chance to use because they fought so many spinners in their heat. Carbide works alone. It's a lone wolf. Ooh. The Streamic being down was now a serious problem for Ironside 3, as their first fight in the head-to-heads in the grand final was a flipper. Eruption. Ironside 3 turned around to spin up once again, but they were being chased. Ironside 3 did manage to land a hit on Eruption, but Eruption wanted to flip them over. The first attempt missed. The second attempt sent Ironside 3 flying, and Ironside 3 landed on its wheels. The chase ensued, ended by a third flip. This time, Ironside 3 did not land on its wheels. It landed upside down. Without a self-righter, or at least a functional self-righter, Ironside 3 lost. Thanks for that, Carbide, not. Next up was a very poorly vertical spinner Aftershock, which had duct taped top armour panels after a really bad case of Carbide. Ironside 3 turned around to spin it, but quickly got chased by Aftershock, showing no fear in spite of, duct tape. Aftershock delivered 2 big hits to Ironside 3, either of which could have taken out Ironside 3. They didn't, though. Ironside 3 landed on its wheels. So Aftershock crashed into a wall, and its weapon motor quite literally sparked out. Lots of sparks. So Ironside 3 was the next to deliver a big hit, though Aftershock was still running headlong into Ironside 3. A chase led to Ironside 3 delivering Aftershock to the floor spikes, which tipped Aftershock over. And without their weapon functioning, Aftershock could not self-right either. Probably much to the relief of all those who take care of the arena, because that's what breaks when Aftershock self-rights. So, that was 3 points for Ironside 3, and next to one-on-one with Carbide. Ironside 3 needed a miracle. Ironside 3 once again turned around to spin up and targeted Carbide's weapon chain. The two traded weapon-to-weapon hits, Ironside 3 meeting the floor flipper again, but eventually Carbide hit the back of Ironside 3 and that took out the spinner. The rest of Ironside 3 went down soon afterwards. After that, Ironside 3 needed another miracle, namely Aftershock beating Eruption by knockout to stand any chance of making the grand final. Ironside 3 ultimately ended up coming third. They did not get the miracle they needed, as Aftershock died at the worst possible moment in what turned out to be its last fight of Series 9. But Ironside 3 did do a serious piece of damage to Carbide. It came this close to taking out Carbide's chain. Its hit was a little on the low side, and it left a massive mark showing just where it hit. Ironside 3 also did not return for Series 10. That's not for want of trying. They did apply, but were rejected, even as a reserve. Shame, really. I think the Series 10 format would have actually suited them. They wouldn't have had to go through so many fights to make it to the heat final. And who knows, they might even have been champion that series. They were good enough. It took 17 years for Team Outlaw to make the grand final, and their run in Series 9 was well worth the wait. Ironside 3 was very good, very destructive, and very smart with the tactics. Given the chance, like I said, could have just as easily been champions. However, they did make a weakness very clear, a weakness of Carbide very clear for someone else to exploit. I also rooted for Ironside 3, and if Robot was and Ironside 3 were to return, I would still root for them. I actually do remember watching Ironside 3's heat at university, not too far from where I'm recording right now. Will next week's Robot be one that I root for, though? You must have seen the slip because I actually held it upside down and then folded, and the writing's too tiny, but it is pain. Until next week, Calison244, out.